resources. An ideal scenario would be to have a purple, doesn't have to be that color, and a brick block, but you might not have that, and you can always improvise with these things, with books and stuff, if you haven't got stuff like that, if you're at home. We're going to start in a seated position, Siddhasana if you can, and for that, if you've got a brick block, and there are some more in the cupboard over there, Siddhasana is best on a brick block, but excuse me. The Siddhasana is highly praised in the Hatha Pradipika and other texts. Hatha texts tell us that Hatha Yoga is for anyone. You know, Buddhists, Charvakas, they're kind of like, Charvakas are a philosophy that basically says, you don't know anything, so you might as well have a good time. That's a Charvakas. It sounds quite appealing, actually, doesn't it? So, but the texts tell us that Hatha Yoga is for everyone, so that must include us. And this pose is a pose that it really highly rates. As I said, Siddhasana. The heels are lined up with the midline of the body. Not everyone can do this pose. There's been times in my 31-year yoga life that I haven't been able to do the pose. So if you can't, you can sit in another position, that's fine. But if you can, heels lined up with each other. So this is Sukhasana, and this is Siddhasana. They're different postures. The heels line up with each other and the midline of the body. Buttock drawn out and back, hands facing up, chest lifted, attention into the heart center. The Hatha Pradipika, in fact, rates this pose so highly. It says, if you learn this pose, you don't really need any others. Which is quite good to know, isn't it? The palms face up in this Jnana Mudra. So if you touch your index finger and thumb tip together, like I'm doing here, see, and rest your hands on your legs. So this Jnana Mudra is important mudra. And you can close your eyes. Now, Jnana Mudra, you can see, has the hands facing up, so there's a receiving element, and the fingers touching, fingertips touching. So there's a focus element. And the word jnana means to know. And of course, most of us would love to know what reality is. You know, even on a basic level. So Jnana Mudra postures us in a way that we can know. Receiving, that's all, with attention. There you go, Phil, that's for you. Receiving with attention. Now, when the mind clings, the breath gets kind of stuck. And if the breath doesn't get stuck, the mind doesn't cling. You can only know reality by being open, not by contracting, but by expanding. Some traditions use the word praman, which can translate as prayer, but can also translate as expanded. Brahman. Bring your hands to the heart center. This is called Anjali, which just means prayer, or Atmanjali. And again, it's a mudra. Now, mudras, we often think of mudras as something you do with your hands, but the hand part, the hasta mudra part, is part of the whole thing, which is poising yourself in an attitude expressed through your hands. So this is obviously a reverential, devotional, giving-based. And I'll say a few lines on behalf of us all, and if you agree with them, at the end we'll chant Om, long and slow for the length of a long exhalation. So I'll just shut the door while I say that, but just listen to the words. And if you agree with them, at the end, this is how we agree in Sanskrit, is by saying Om. At the end, we'll chant Om. If you don't agree, you can abstain from chanting Om. I think you will, though, agree. May all be happy. May all be healthy. May all see goodness. May there be no worry. Deep breath in. And then subsequent deep breaths come and go. So letting the breath come in, letting the breath go out. Rolling breath, right? Remember, if the breath doesn't cling, as it were, the breath doesn't get stuck, the mind doesn't get stuck. This is basic yoga theory, but the evidence for it is here and now. Okay, you can release your hands when you're ready. And we're going to bring ourselves up to a standing position. So the premise, I hope, if the ground has been set, giving, letting go. We could talk about cross tradition, many traditions focusing on this in different ways. Take your feet generously apart, hands on your hips. Now, we've recently salted the mats at the Brighton Buddhist Center in an attempt to make them more sticky. But if you do find they're not sticky enough, I bought one of my own sticky mats from home. You can use that. And I'm going to bring more as well as a backup plan. So see how you go. At home, you've probably got a nice sticky mat. Left toes in, right foot and leg out. If you turn on the ball of the foot, finish off the turn on the heel. You should look and check you've got heel to arch alignment, and then stretch your arms out. Breathe through your nose, release the roots of your neck, raise your lead arm, inhale, exhale. There are your hamstrings. Right in the back of your leg, you can feel. Good job. So saying yes, we've already looked at, you can use Om. I agree, I assent, Om. But on a more primal level, you agree or disagree with reality being the way it is with your breath. Now, obviously in a yoga class, we highly encourage to agree with reality being the way it is, because by doing so, one has knowledge of reality as it is, right? Because it is as it is. It's not, something you can grasp, but it is here, like you can't grasp the air, but you're surviving because it exists. Huh? So reality exists, but you can't grasp it, so you breathe instead. Okay, inhale. Good job, come up. Even on a mundane level, hands on the hips, feet facing forwards. Knowing the posture, knowing the body, knowing how to adjust the body is knowing the way things are. Back toes in, front foot and leg out. So that's a mundane goal, but one that's obviously we all want. We want to know how the body needs to be treated. Raise the arms. Breathe through your nose. Release the roots of your neck. Imagine, at least, and it might actually be so, imagine that you're having a nice time already. Inhale, exhale, come down. And imagine that this was a nice space to practice yoga, because it is. You don't even have to imagine it, whether that's at home, you've got nice homes. You can see them on my screen here, very nice. Or here at the BBC, the Brighton Buddhist Center. Enjoying your posture makes a difference to your posture. For obvious reasons, right? Enjoying your posture makes a difference to your posture. Everyone knows that the mind affects the body. And the breath affects the mind. So breathe in ways that are relaxed, that are happy, that feel everything's here, because everything is here. Okay, inhale, ascend. Well done, everyone. Turn the feet forwards, hands on your hips. Take a deep breath or two. Yeah, go for it, Daryl. I knew there'd be at least some. Sorry if they've only got one of them. So walk your feet towards each other. I am going to bring more between you and me and everyone else I've told. I didn't approve of these yoga mats when they were bought. I did say, these are not good mats. You didn't listen to me, though. Anyway, that's just a little gripe expressed and now released, perhaps. Raise up your left heel and breathe easy. Actually, the person that bought them is no longer at the Brighton Buddhist Center, so there's not because of that, just because it's not. Okay, lovely man, doesn't know how to buy a good mat. Take hold of your big toe, which is quite exciting. Like, woo, okay. And you can breathe into that with the same hand. So if it's your left leg that's up, you're holding it with your left hand and doing your best. That's, to surf the waves. A living experience is not still, is it? So how could you grasp it? St. Augustine said, don't try and put God into a cup. He's talking about God because he's St. Augustine. Throw your cup into the ocean. Right? I like that. Lift your leg up and out. You can counterbalance with the other arm. Breathe through your nose. Okay, jaw soft. Well done. Back to center and come down. Well done, everyone. Quite wobbly here at the Brighton Buddhist Center. Okay. Back to second side. Raise up your other heel. Breathe freely. So the yoga poses are asking you to let go of your baggage, your expectations, your anticipations, your grasping. You're trying to put the ocean into a cup. They're asking you to do that through your breath. And you still can say no, but it gets harder and harder to say no as the postures keep asking. Huh? When you're ready, hold your big toe. Right. Breathe into it. You can have your other hand where you like, on your hip as a suggestion. Now, the pose is wobbly. Reality is wobbly. The Sanskrit word is anitya, or anicca in Pali, which doesn't quite accurately translate as wobbly, but unstable, impermanent. Right? So this is a great way of learning what reality is like and how to respond to it. Lift your leg up and out and use your other arm if you like as a counterbalance for that. Hang in there, Robin. Breathe easy. Jaw soft. Mind soft. Yay! Leg back to the front, foot down. Catch a breath or two. You might want a little shake out or a shimmy out. Take a few deep breaths. Take your feet hip width apart. Now we ascertain hip width. So hip width is ascertained by pushing your pelvis to one side, what I call the hitchhiker's position. And you feel there's a bony prominence there. That's the greater trochanter of the femur. Straight down, and then feel it on the other side. Straight down from those bony prominences to your outer feet, little toe side of your feet. That's hip width. We don't want to see this. We don't want to see this. Hip width. Look at my feet. Look at your feet. Are they the same? Ish. And then no toes turned out like that. Like the idea of an old-fashioned policeman, even all. The feet should be forwards. Okay. Don't know if that's a thing anymore. Raise your arms up or keep your hands on your hips, up to you, and then loosen the roots of the neck. So either way, loosen the roots of the neck so you can move your head. Yoga really is a way of unhooking us from habits and patterns, samskaras, they're called, habits and patterns, samskaras. Take a big circle and everyone hands on the hips. Press down into the hips, lift up in the chest. Take some breaths. Find the pelvic floor. Right? You might think, why? What's the point? Who cares? What's the pelvic floor all about? Well, it's part of reality, isn't it? It's a particle which is part of the whole, and the whole negates clinging, and it's clinging that the Buddha said is the source of all Dhammanasya, mind-created suffering. So find the pelvic floor, you'll find a part of the whole, so the pelvic floor is part of the whole, and through finding really kind of plunging into that experience, waking up to that experience, you'll find the whole itself. The whole is everything, right? Don't hold your breath to try and find it because that's the wrong tool. That's like trying to put the ocean in a cup. Just end up with a cup of salt water and the ocean's still where it is. Breathe easy, breathe natural. Now we're going to inhale, lift up our groins from the groins. Inhale, lift up. Exhale, fold forwards, and we're going to touch the floor. So that means for most of us bending the knees. So I want you to touch the floor with your hands flat, right? So you don't have to bend the knees, but if you don't, for most of us, especially this time of the morning, the back doesn't feel good. And it should feel good, it should flow. Flow yoga is very, very popular these days, and I'm not against it. That's my positive review. I'm not against it. And the principle of flow, of course, is absolutely central to all yoga. The principle of flow. And it should be manifest. You should feel it in your breath, here and now, and in the body, here and now. Instead of looking for what should I do, let go of I. That's what throwing the cup into the ocean is. The cup is I. And it's too small to put reality into, and it actually doesn't exist anyway. The I we create is a sort of temporary structure that's sometimes this way and sometimes that way, depends on who we're with. I'm like this with some people, and I'm like that with others. Now we're going to see if we can take hold of our big toes. Because, not often people do this, is it? Hold the big toe, so it's different. With your index finger, middle finger, and thumb wrapping around. This is called Padahasthasana. And breathe into that. Keep your back soft. So most people, as I said, have the knees bent for Padahasthasana. Deep, expressive, natural. Okay. Now we're going to try Padahasthasana. Treading on your own hands. It sounds like madness, but we'll do it anyway. Tread on our own hands. The palms face up. The soles of the feet face down. Well done, everyone. It's quite hard, isn't it? And it's kind of like, what's going on? How many times in your day do you feel your own hands being trodden on by your own feet? Well, never usually. So it's unusual, and that's good. Because the usual is habitual, and the habitual is not awake, and the habitual is conditioned, right, and limited, and not self. Okay, release your hands from under your feet. Bend your knees more till your ribs touch your thighs. Bend your knees more till your ribs touch your thighs. And then ascend by bringing your hands onto your thighs, just above your knees, and straightening and locking your elbows. Or as an Italian student marvelously says, elbones, which I quite like, because they're like a shape of an L, aren't they? And they're a bone. So it's a natural misunderstanding. Come up all the way in your own time. Well done. Shake out, shimmy out. We're going to come down to laying down on our backs. If you're in the room, have your head facing that way on this side, that way on this side, and that way, as you two. You can decide between you in the middle which way, but do the same thing as each other. So you can do the same thing as Phil, because he beat you to it. So you're laying down on your back, legs bent, soles of the feet on the floor. Already feels pretty good. Keep your legs bent because it keeps the lower back long. Keep the lower back long because it extends the fibers of the psoas and the diaphragm. Keep the fibers of the psoas and diaphragm long because it negates clinging. So I hope that's enough incentivizing to get you to bend your legs. Probably didn't need any incentive. Breathe easy. Just notice your lower back settling itself. Notice your lower back settling itself. Who does that? Who's needed? What person settles the back? It settles itself, right? What person breathes? It breathes itself, right? The selflessness of our experience. Now, when you're ready, give your legs a hug and have a roll about. Right? Give your legs a hug. You got it. You got it. And have a roll about. So you might roll one side, and you get a moment that's, well, I can't speak, you see, when I get to that moment, and then I try to describe it to you. And there aren't descriptive words, and that's the best description I've got for what the moments are like. Again, you can't describe them because descriptions are always polarities. They're always dualities. And reality is never a duality. It's a living, changing moment with infinite nuance in it. The Indian, bless you, the Indian tradition says that reality is without beginning or end. It's in permanent flux. It's described often as a dancer, as a female dancer, Prakriti. And you can almost imagine the whole of reality represented by a dancer, and maybe she's got sort of garments that move as she moves and sweep and swirl, and these are movements of galaxies and nebula and solar systems and so on. But there are also movements of what we call my mind, the breath. These are all part of the whole. And the traditions that talk in this way about the whole say, Prakriti is one. So you can know Prakriti, what St. Augustine calls God, what later traditions call Shakti or the Devi, through giving, through surrender. Not by trying to squeeze her into one of our concepts, one of our ideas, one of our views and opinions. Now, many of us love a rollabout, so you might want to roll about longer, but we're going to let that rolling come to a still point and then bring our feet back down to the floor. We're going to pop our hands under our heads as if we're on holiday. So fingers interlaced and hands under the head and study. So a lot of people, not everyone, but a lot of people will have heard of Patanjali's Yoga Sutra, 4th century Common Era, probably. Can't be sure. And Patanjali teaches several different yogas, including, of course, the very famous Ashtanga yoga. But he also teaches Kriya Yoga. Kriya Yoga is the yoga of movement, of Kriya, of action. And it's described as Tapasvadhyayeshvara Pranidhanani Kriya Yoga in Sanskrit. Tapas is like discipline, enthusiasm, zeal, passion for your subject. Swadhyaya is a sense of study. What we're studying is this. And Ishvara means, it comes from two particles, Ish plus Vara, master and the best master. Ishvara is the final surrender to the profound knowing that happens when you relax, when there's this giving, when there's this trust. So you relax like you're on holiday. That's a quicker way of saying all that. And you're on holiday. Conditions are perfect on your holiday. No mosquitoes, not too hot, not too cold. Just relaxing. Now raise your feet up, and your lumbar will become intimate with the floor. The lumbar is the lower back, of course. And the muscles that attach to the lumbar and that are close to the lumbar, like the psoas and like the quadratus lumborum, they kind of get a little massage that you can feel into by rolling or pulling the legs more or less. You never need to go to thinking like, is this right? Is this right? I had a student once, he's a nice guy, Steve, he was called. And Steve was very enthusiastic and used to ask me at the end or during every single pose for months on end, what's this one for, Jim used to say, what's this one for? And I used to say, well, it's good for your lower back and it releases the psoas. And after a while, I started saying, they're all for absorption, because that's the ultimate purpose of all the postures. But you only experience absorption when you become absorbed, and you only become absorbed through giving. Go ahead and lift your head up, and that will up the ante. The lower back then presses into the floor. You can feel that, right? You can do this with your hands behind your head, or you can even place your hands on your knees if you prefer, or have your hands towards the skull. It's a meditation. It's an intimate, meditative. It's actually love-centered. Yoga practice is love-centered. And love, if you love something, what do you want to do? You want to give to it. Time, cuddles, attention, cake, I don't know, whatever you want to give when you love something. Okay, head comes down, feet come down. Everyone takes a deep breath once your feet are down. Deliberate deep breath in, deep breath out. And then multiples thereof of deep breaths flowing through. And if you can allow 3 deep breaths, that'd be incredible. If you can allow 4, oh my God, If you let yourself stay surrendered to the deep breath forever, you would have crossed over into Buddhahood. I guess that could be today, could be your day for that. Most of us manage a few, and then habituation strikes again, and we believe these habituated callings in the breath, brain and body, ourself energetically, so we get caught up, but not everyone. And those that don't get caught up again, as I say, they're called Buddhas or Tirthankaras or whatever you want to call them. Okay, now release your hands and roll over onto your side and then come up from the side. Well done. We're going to sit in perhaps my favorite pose, Dandasana. Now, you might think, oh, it's not that special, sitting with your legs extended out in front of you, a bit boring. But I love it, and I hope to enthuse you to it today. Now, many people do benefit from sitting on a block, right? I would say most people do. And if you've got 2 blocks, even better, but you might only have 1, and it's fine. 2 blocks are really good. You can have them short end to short end, like that. There you go, have another one. I'll chuck you another one as well. Look at that. So, sorry at home, I can't chuck you blocks. Sorry that I didn't have more blocks to chuck out. Draw the buttock flesh out and back. Here's how you ascertain, if you don't know already, whether or not you need a block. Once you've drawn the buttock flesh out and back, you drag your hands by your hips and you attempt to lift your lower back, right? So let's all try that, whether you're on a block or not. If you're not sitting on a block and you try to lift your lower back and you feel it can't lift, it doesn't feel light, it doesn't feel lifted, then you sit on a block. And that also applies if you don't know. If you try to lift your lower back and you think, I don't know if it feels light, I can't tell. That means it isn't. So you'll need a block then as well. You can press down your hands to lift up your lower back, making it spacious, but let's go beyond willfulness. We can start with willfulness, that's okay. But then go beyond that into bhakti, which means devotion. Now, what do I mean by going into bhakti? Well, we sometimes imagine that within the central channel, there's a goddess, right? And the reason why we imagine there's a goddess is because by bringing yourself into the central channel, it's liberative. So we want that goddess, who's sometimes called Kundalini or Chandalini if you're a Buddhist. We want that goddess to have space. So we want the central channel to lift. You might move left and find a little lift and then move right and find another. You might move a little forwards or backwards. I'm encouraging us all to investigatively move, looking for space in which metaphorical goddess. The reason we use language like goddess is because it doesn't just describe the liberative results of engagement, but it also describes the way in which we should engage for success, with devotion, with love, with giving. So keep playing, keep looking for height all the time. And this is just one aspect of the magical Dandasana. And it's enough, isn't it? More than enough. So keep investigating. The mind sometimes tires and drifts. Come back to it, and again attempt, perhaps by ranging around, attempt to find lightness in your lumbar, which I have to point out is necessarily mental lightness as well as physical. You can't have physical lightness without an accompanying mental lightness. They have to go together for one to happen both. Okay, ease off. There's other instructions about that pose, but it's enough, isn't it? It's quite a powerful pose. Now, if you're here at the Bright Buddhist Center, please turn towards white Tārā, Om Tārā. Turn towards white Tārā, which is behind me. If you're at home, you might also face, depends where your screen's set up, but place yourself so you've got a little bit of space behind you and you can hold your big toes. Make sure, we are going to lean back, make sure you're not too far back on the mat because you might feel you're going to sort of fall off it, which we don't want. Also, don't sit on a block for this one because it's dangerous to do that. Holding your big toes, lean back until your feet come up off the floor and your buttocks are being massaged, aren't they? You can feel it's like, oh, yeah. Buttocks hold a lot of tension, but it's not the same kind of tension that we notice like when our shoulders are tight. Huh? It's more under the radar. But when you expose it here, you can really feel it, you can work into it. So I'm rocking a little bit intuitively. You know, you might do that, you might not. You know it's massaging because it allows this permeation of consciousness into the body, which ultimately takes us into the field that the body is part of. You can talk about the field just in terms of sociology. You know, what happens around us affects our mental states, affects our nervous system, affects our body. And there's lots of other ways to talk about interdependence too. You might want to extend a leg. You might want to extend another leg. You might want to bend and extend both. We're looking for the same lightness in the lumbar that we were looking for before in Dandasana. So again, it's a psychophysical, breath-centered lightness. You can't expect to have a light body if you're not willing to let your mind and breath be taken over. Having straight legs means you're a better, more mature, more spiritually awake person than bent legs. It doesn't. That's nonsense. I'm just talking nonsense. But sometimes the mind thinks that kind of thing, doesn't it? It's like, oh, if I had straight legs, I'd be so happy. That's not how it works. You can have bent legs or straight legs. Happiness comes from absorption in the goddess, and that's all. So that's, you know, it doesn't matter how you look, it's how you feel and how you breathe. I too once thought if my legs could be straight, I'd be happy. People would talk to me more at parties and things like that. And then my legs are straight, and that never came about. I still go to parties and sit in the corner and no one talks. So, especially if I'm sat in the corner like this. No, definitely no one talks to me then. Okay, come down nice and easy. Well done. That's called Padahasthasana. Now for the next pose, I'm going to suggest for most people to sit on a block is Baddha Konasana. So it's a relatively wide stride. Again, it doesn't matter how wide, but it shouldn't be too wide. That's a different pose. Purple block's the block you want for this, actually. And you should turn the corner of the block forwards, so the corner protrudes just in front of your pubis. You just position the block skew. Now, the reason for that is so your thighs can drop down. Your thighs can drop down. And the reason you want the thighs to drop down is that will then release your psoas. And the reason you want your psoas to release is because then that will release all the spinal discs, it will release the nerves, it will release the mind, you'll enter into Brahman and be happy. So that's good. Sit up real tall. If you've got something under one knee, you should have it under the other as well, Phil. So I'm going to, because I like you, I'm going to bring you 2 blankets as a special treat. Now the reason if you've got something under one knee, you should have it under both, by the way, for anyone, is to keep the spine level. Now place your hands cupped behind you, one and all, cupped behind you, fingers facing back. We'll work out that knee properly for you, Phil. It's under there. Just re-clip this to me and then I'll give you the other one. And then use your hands cupped behind you to lift yourself up. Make yourself light in the lumbar. Light in the lumbar. That's what we want again. That's my pleasure. Deserve a bit of luxury. How's that? Great. Pleasure. So that lightness in the lumbar, again, is psychophysical. Necessarily, don't expect your body to let go if you're not willing to let the mind go. I'm rereading at the moment the Vimalakirti Nidirsha, which is probably the earliest true Mahayana Buddhist text. I highly recommend it. Beautiful text. But it mentions time and time again, don't cling, let go, relax. Right? Views and opinions, even Buddhist views and opinions, are to be let go of if you're to know reality. So you breathe, you let go. What you want to know is this, isn't it? This is it, right now. It's not something out there, you know. So if you want to know this, you have to let go into this. You have to feel the stretch. You have to breathe into the stretch. You have to feel where you're tense and where you're released. You have to feel what's running through the nerves already in terms of tightness, and you have to feel it in terms of its resistance to this. Now we're going to turn towards one leg, let's say the right leg, and just make sure the toes are facing up. Now some people have got what I call teddy bear legs, right? Those are legs that roll out like that, like a teddy bear, which are kind of cute. And if you've got teddy bear legs, just guide them, they're very cute, but just guide them to the upright. Okay. Now, as you're turning towards one foot, hopefully you might be able to, if you relax, feel energy releasing. So a big part of late traditions, tantric traditions, is to act as if. To act as if. So you act as if everything's fine right now. Everything's, peaceful right now. You've got everything you need right now. Just, tell yourself, I got everything I need right now. Everything I need is now. I don't need to become a better person. I don't need to release past karma. I don't need to, sort out my figure. And then what happens as we relax is called santosha, as we expand. Like a fern leaf opening in the spring. Lift and turn towards the other leg. Good job. And feel and imagine energy releasing into the leg you've turned away from. You know, the way a boat, as it moves forward, leaves a wake behind it, or a comet leaves a tail behind it, streaming behind it. As you turn your energy one way, feel energy releasing the other. Yeah, so feel energy releasing the other. And breathe into that. So we're saying yes. Everyone knows that yogis are into Om. Anyone knows that they're into Om. They're into lentils. They're into, incense sticks. But not everyone knows that Om means yes. And yes is fundamentally said, if you can put it that way, through the breath. Yes. Okay. Return to center. And then I hope you can bring your legs back together. I hope you're not stuck there. Okay. So bring your legs back together. And then we're going to sit. Now, if you've got a wall, which I know you have here at the BBC, sit with your back against the wall. I don't know why I'm going to demonstrate sitting with your back against the wall. I think you know how to do that. You can take your mat with you. If you're at home and you've got a wall to sit with your back against, do that as well. Use a block behind your back. Lots of wall space. If you're in this space, if you come into this space in the room, you'll be in shot, and all the Zoomers will be able to enjoy your face. So you might like that. Obviously not. Everyone's hiding from the Zoomers. So they're actually quite nice, the Zoomers, despite their reputation. So remember, you've got a block behind you. You've got a block behind you. Now I'm using a cork block, but if I had one nearer, I'd use a purple block, right? Behind you. So that goes behind you, and you bring your soles of your feet together to touch, okay? This is called Baddha Konasana or Bhadrasana in earlier texts. You can hold your feet optionally, but you don't have to. You can move in ways that massage and melt. When you move, it massages and melts myofascia and other fascia too. Myofascia is the fascia that constructs muscles together with muscle cells. And so we have 5 main muscles on the inner thigh called the adductors. So adductor brevis, longus magnus, gracilis, and pectineus are the names. And as you breathe, you can feel there's this wonderful invitation. And the invitation is to say yes. And you don't have to say yes. That's why it's an invitation. It's not a demand. But if you do say yes, it's like St. Augustine's metaphor of throwing your cup in the ocean to know God. And God, to St. Augustine was clearly something beyond ordinary comprehension, not like in the paintings of, God with a great bearded guy sitting on a cloud, There's something more, something beyond. So breathe into it, study it, give to it, and throw your cup into the ocean. Tendencies to say no are there in all of us. But ask why. Why are we saying no? What is the fear behind that, if there is a fear? Sometimes we feel if we say yes, that we might just disappear in a puff of smoke. If I don't constantly create myself and define myself, might I just disappear in a puff of smoke? Well, I always think if that were to happen, wouldn't that be a great way to go? People would talk about it for years. They were, oh, he was there, and then just disappeared in a puff of smoke. So, it's worth letting go just to see if that happens. And of course, it doesn't tend to. Only metaphorically. Okay. Keep saying yes whenever you remember to. I agree. I agree. And know that the tradition says being empty is the true ground of the power of really knowing, being empty. Okay, we're going to Release slow and easy. Hopefully, oh God. Bring the legs out and then, well done, Phil. And then come back into the room. Now, you can use cork brick for what we're going to do, or a block. I'll tell you. Just come in the room and lay down. Have a brick or block, or if you're at home, a stack of books that you can sort of pile up one on top of the other. Actually, that's a very good option. We're going to lay on our back. It's Setu Bandhasana. Setu means bridge, and Bandha means formation. It's one interpretation of Bandha. Great. So you've got your brick, if you've got a brick, or you might use a stack of books, or you might use a single purple or the other kind of block. We're going to walk our feet close to our bums, real close to the bum. Let's do it together. Lay on your back. Take the brick, put it underneath your pelvis. Right. Fairly. Like, what? Are you kidding? What? Underwear? Yeah, you can. Now, if you think it's high, no, it isn't. Well, it is, but it isn't. In other words, you can get on it by walking your feet in real close to your bum, lifting your heels up, then lift your pelvis, and then I bet you £1.89 that you'll be able to get on it. It's a fairly low stake, I admit. Great, you got it. Setu Bandha, it's called, bridge formation. Now, with your arms, you can do a variety of things. You can hold your mat, as Daryl wisely is. You can turn your arms out, or you can do what the Venerable Francis G is doing, which is what I would do as well, which is turn the elbows in towards the waist and forearms out away from the waist. Don't do this. Make sure you're doing this. So the elbows are going towards the waist. And you can see the hands are fairly low down, and that will drive your shoulder blades into your back ribs. Breathe into it. Your neck is tight. I'm just presuming that, because most people's necks are, and upper back. So use your breath to let go of that tightness, which is now exposed by doing this posture. Use your breath to say yes to the pose, by virtue of which one releases what one's neck was holding already, which is usually a sense of I, in some way or another. I've got to do this, I've got to do that, I've got to become, I mustn't do that, I must be better than I was, on and on. I mean, it's infinite. But let go of the causes and you'll let go, or let go of the symptoms rather, and you'll let go of the causes too. That's how yoga works. Let go of the tight neck, you'll let go of what drives the tight neck. How do you let go of the tight neck? Be aware of it and let go of any tightness in the breath. Be aware that you might feel views, opinions, emotions, attachments coming up, also being invited to let go. Let them go. Let them go. And it's actually a profound surrender. Couple more breaths in this, what I think of as a marvelous pose. And then we're going to come out by keeping very, very calm, of course, and walking our feet towards our bricks, lifting the heels up. Listen, tone your tummy before you come up. That means take your tummy towards the spine and then use the ribs to stretch your tummy. And then lift up and take the brick out. Stay in touch with your pelvic floor. All the way down. You can walk your feet away from you all the way down. And then rest with your arms stretched out to the sides of you and just say yes with your exhalations. Yes, I agree. You know, take me, you know, this is like we're in a room that I think of now as Tāra's room. Tārā is a room because we have a picture of Tārā in here. And Tārā is often seen as a savioress. And for her to save you, you have to sort of give to her. This is a technique, isn't it? Encouraging us, and to encourage us to be able to give to her, she's portrayed as incredibly beautiful, incredibly kind, incredibly benevolent. and tender. And it makes us want to give to her. And she, of course, represents the goddess, the general goddess, the Devi. She's included in the collection of goddesses called the Mahavidyas, for example, who are all examples of the Devi. So taking deep, honest, natural, expressive breaths. Okay. Good. Okay, we're going to bend our legs, roll over onto our side, come up from the side, because it's getting to a point in the class where some people are beginning to think, is this the real Jim Tārā? There's been no down-faced dog yet. How can it be Jim Tārā when there's no down-faced dog? Well, it is the real me. Be reassured as we take a down-faced dog. Before you come into it, as I mentioned, for some people are fine on these mats, but if you're a bit like me and you get sweaty palms, I get sweaty palms, then you might find you slip in down-faced dog. You can simply use a belt. You put the belt across your mat like that, and that's for the heels of your hands, and then you won't slip. So the belts are in a box, which is in here somewhere. I don't know where they are. Oh, they're in a cupboard. So grab yourself a belt if you've got any doubt whether you might slip or not. And if you feel grippy and sticky, then just come right up. And pad your paws into a deeper weave. Now, I'm using the word paws, and you might think, Jim, I'm not a cat or a bear. I'm referring to your hands, right? So I'm calling them paws because cats have paws and they do this sort of padding, and it's a bit annoying because it ruins your nice trousers, but their purpose isn't to ruin your trousers, I don't think. Who knows what's going on. Their purpose is to arrive, to settle, to bring their nervous system into one place. So when you think about it like that, you might feel, oh, bless them, you know. So that's why you're doing it too. You pad your paws to really arrive, to feel the molecules of your hands melding with the molecules of the mat. And then open the armpits. You might bend and extend your knees. Some people find that useful. Start with the inner armpit. Stretch and open the inner armpit. Follow through with the outer armpit. Breathe deep. Breathe honest. Breathe expressively. Breathe deep. Breathe honest. Breathe expressively. Breathe deep. Breathe honest. Breathe expressively. And play. Lila. Play into it. Good. Good. If you need a rest, you can have a rest. Robin, just bring your hands a bit further back that way. So just beyond that line. Yeah, there you go. And take your feet a little wider too. Feel free to have a rest if you need it. Just take some weight off your arms by pulling you back. Well done, Norma. Take some deep breaths. Come onto your fingertips, Norma. Just your fingertips if you can. That's it. You got it. You got it. Breathe deep. Breathe deep. Well done, everyone. All right. You're probably cooked. So come down slow and easy to a kneeling position. Vajrasana. How did that feel with that pullback? Does that help? Yeah, good. Good. Yeah, so it takes the weight off, doesn't it? Good, great. I'll do that more often for you then. That's my pleasure. Sitting, kneeling, upright position. You can put a block and should put a block between the heels and buttocks if your knees are tight. You can sit in a different position if this is too strong. You can put more than one block. You can also put a rolled up blanket under your front ankles, as Daryl's got there sensibly. Good, good. Yeah, that looks good, Phil. So Vajra is a thunderbolt originally wielded by the Vedic god Indra. And actually before it was a thunderbolt, it was a mace in earlier references, but the thunderbolt becomes a symbol for immediate awakening. Vajra. Like a thunderbolt, it's like boom. Right? Immediate awakening. Immediate awakening is available all the time. I call it the great before. In a micro moment before a thought, there is this awakening, this direct knowing. In the Tibetan traditions, it's called Dzogchen. Or in a parallel tradition, and the two traditions have sort of merged now, Mahamudra. Immediate. Before thinking kicks in, there's this. There it is, this. Nothing to grasp. Bring your hands to the heart center, breathe through your nose. Jaw soft, eyes soft, throat soft, brain soft. Incidentally, I should mention that I'm finding myself rolling on my shins. I should say that that's an option that sometimes happens. What happens when I roll on my shins, of course, is it massages the various muscles, anterior tibialis on the front legs, gastrocnemius soleus on the back legs, various hamstrings and quadricep muscles, the psoas from the inner groins through to the sides of the lower spine gets lengthened and short. You get the picture. Everything's getting massaged through movement, right out even through the back, through shortening and lengthening. And one can use massage as a way of negating clinging. So the idea is just keep the mind from clinging. Like you can use the great before a thought. Here it is, all is. The great perfection is here. Dzogchen. Okay, release your hands. And we're going to stretch our legs out again. You do need a belt for this, which you can use a dressing gown belt if you're at home, if you don't have a yoga belt. But most people now have purchased themselves a belt. I'll bring some belts around for you here at the BBC out of this spaghetti of belts. Who ain't got a belt? There you go, Robin. There you go. Who else? Phil? There you go. You all got one? Good. Great. Again, sitting on a block is advantageous for most. I'm going to make up a percentage. I'm going to say for 92% of people, it's a made-up percentage, but for most people. But you can ascertain that for yourself by sitting without a block, drawing the buttock flesh out and back, and then again, as the criteria was before, it is again now. Can I sit up? Can I sit up light and tall? And can I feel lightness in my lumbar? If you can't feel lightness in the lumbar, or if you're not sure, then you sit on a block, right? And you can even sit on more than one. For some people, when you're sitting on blocks, there can be a tendency for the knees to drop, and a sensation of locking can occur in the knees that we want to avoid. You can, especially if you're on more than one block, support the back of the knees with a very neatly pleated blanket or towel. Towels are often better underneath the back of the knees. The other thing we can do, let's all drag our hands back for a moment and sit before we come into Paschimottanasana, into Dandasana. The other thing we can do is visualize and feel the thigh bones dropping. Now, most people approach the thigh bone dropping the wrong way. They approach it as like something I'm doing, but dropping. So if you saw someone standing on a bridge, little arch bridge over a stream, and they had a stone in their hand and they said, I want to drop this stone, but I don't know what I'm supposed to do. You'd say, just let it go. And they were like, what? Just let it go. That's how it is with the thigh bones. Just let them go. It's not like you do anything, you just abstain from holding them. Right? Now, as the bones drop, it's subtle, then it makes space for the pelvis to come forward. Now let's use our belt now around the balls of the feet. So place your belt around the balls of the feet. Can be a dressing gown belt at home. I always say dressing gown belt because I think for the first 10 years of teaching, probably about that long, I used to go around car boot sales and things because I was skint, because, you know, yoga teaching doesn't really pay that well. And I used to buy dressing gown belts for my students. I had a big bag of them and ties as well that I used to take to my classes. So they worked really well. And then, you know, I did a bit better and I could afford yoga belts. So I'm really moved up in the world. Pull on your yoga belt, pull on it. Drive the back of the body into the front of the body and lift the front of the body up. Have your arms straight, 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 straight. No bend in the elbows. So walk further down if you need to. Pull on the belt, drive the back of the body into the front of the body and make the front body light. Now that pulls a little, it puts a little challenge into the hamstring muscles, I'm sure you can feel. And their tightness, their resistance, which is part of the general tightness and resistance of being somebody, I am somebody, can release when we release everything that accompanies it. So what accompanies tightness in the hamstrings is tightness in the breath. Let that go. What accompanies tightness in the breath is a sense of clinging. I'm supposed to be someone, but I'm not quite sure who that is. Most of us think we're supposed to be someone, and most of us aren't quite sure what that is. So when you're not sure, what do? You become stiff and tight like a rabbit in the headlights. It's called samshaya in Sanskrit. It's called doubt, and it's an obstacle to yoga. What's its antidote? It's called shraddha, which is faith, devotion, love, trust, expressed on all levels. Right? Just like enjoying your class here, you know. Sometimes you find, without even knowing it's happened, that the hamstrings have released a little bit through time, perhaps through movement, you can massage them too, and perhaps through a little bit of intelligent tone coming through the front thighs. If the hamstrings release, feel free to walk along the belt a bit. Don't, however, repress the goddess, right? So the central channel should feel open. She should feel that she can dance within that channel, metaphorically speaking. So breathe into it. So any movement that's taking place is not you bending over your belly button, but a release of the hamstrings that attach to your pelvis so that the pelvis itself, the sitting bones release back behind us, the lower part of the pelvis goes back, the upper part of the pelvis goes forwards, it's just tipping. And we just keep the spine and the pelvis in their normal, natural alignment. Paschimottanasana. Okay. Come on up. Calmly. And release the belt. And lay on your back for a moment. Huh? Lay on your back. Give those legs a hug and have a roll about, right? And do it because in a way that's kind of like yummy. Take it beyond words. The mind has two sort of modes regarding language. It has descriptive language, and that tends to revolve around self. I like this, I don't like this. This is good, this is not good, that kind of thing. This is pleasant, this is unpleasant. And that's fine. That's that's descriptive. It might even go into some detail, like this is hot, this is cold, this is tingling, and this is dull. But eventually, once the descriptive language starts moving into complete service, it just wants to describe completely accurately the moment-to-moment reality, then it stops being descriptive and can only then be expressive language. That's when the yogini knows that she has merged or given back to the whole, body, brain, breath, back to the whole that they are part of. Now, expressive language is language like ooh and ah and oh God and wow and oh, you know, oh. Those are kind of expressive language, sounds, even sometimes words that are not descriptive but are expressive. So while you're thinking about it, that's not it. But if you roll to one side, you might get a sensation that's so rich that you're like, people do it all the time when they eat food that they find delicious. They don't describe it, oh, it's very tasty, it's very nice. They go, Even Michel Roux, when he's tasting food, if he likes it, he just nods and smiles. So that's what you're looking for here as well. Okay, you can let the rolling settle if you're ready for it to settle. And place the feet back down on the floor. We are going to, in my view, unfortunately, come into Shavasana already, because my timepiece, God damn it, is telling me it's time already, which I don't like. It doesn't feel like that to me. It feels like we just got here. Now, corpse pose is important, and it's important that you're warm. So I will now shut the fire escape door, blah, blah, blah. So you're warm, but you might also want a blanket. So if you want a blanket, you might be thinking, I do, Jim, but I can't really be asked to get up and get one. I'm bringing them around. Stay exactly where you are. I'm not only going to bring them around, I'm going to put them on you. So you can lay down. Look how good the service is today at the Buddhist Center. Would you like one? I thought so. Your body's just, your legs moved a little bit towards me, which said to me, can I have a blanket? Well, not really. It's just body language. There you go. Your palms face up, away from the body. Now, here's the thing. I don't know if there are long-term plans to change the flooring in this room to wooden, which I think is a good idea. You're right there, Tārā. Can you do it? Let me help. Why not? Why wouldn't, we like helping each other. There we go. And so, but your hands should be on the laminate floor at the Buddhist Center if you're at the Buddhist Center. At home, fingers crossed you ain't got no laminate floor. You've got nice, soft, warm surface. Anyway, shoulder blades scoot under. Shavasana, you should lay yourself symmetrically and spaciously for this pose. We've spoken about giving the whole time. And we're in a room, or we're zooming into a room where we see this picture of the white Tārā. There are 21 Tārās. And yes, you pronounce it Tārā. 2 long A's in it. And she's full of love, and compassion. We imagine when we look at an image of her, she's youthful, she's beautiful, she's gentle, she's full of love. She's absolutely, she is wisdom in the white Tārā. She has eyes in the soles of her feet, in the palms of her hands, and in her forehead too, indicating that she knows the way things are. Throughout her body, she knows. So imagine this Savioress as this beautiful, compassionate, timeless being, occupying what's called the Sambhoga Kaya. Sambhoga Kaya means something like the realm of mutual enjoyment. But we can think of that as our own subconscious, like a realm between the ultimate truth and our own subjective reality is this Sambhoga Kaya. And this beautiful bodhisattva encouraging us to give our bodies, the weight of the body, our breath, our thinking processes, if we give them to her, they are already hers. And she is the goddess. And anything that comes up, we can give her anything. We can give her shame. We can give her pride. We can give her contentment. We can give her dullness. Whatever arises, you just give it to her. And like all forms of the goddess, she transforms your giving into liberation. One becomes completely free in a moment. She wants everything and anything equally. And as you give to her, you become her. And as you become her, you occupy the entirety of existence. You become Brahman, expanded fully. You no longer know yourself as conditioned, limited, subject to the flights of fancy of the world. But you know yourself as her, as the universe, as Tārā. It's amazing how much Om sounds like home. We can be simultaneously aware of the vastness at the same time as our own particular, the locality of the particular portal to that vastness that we call me, myself, and I. Right? So here we are, me, myself, and I is the body, and it's a particular locus, but it's a portal to that wider field. So when you feel into the body, this particular portal to that universal, feel into it with that simultaneous awareness. So you can move your toes, feeling into the body that way, move your fingers, move your wrists and ankles, and then other little stretches come. This is your own unique portal to the ground of your being. And over time, after stretching the body and moving into the body and appreciating the body as this beautiful part of the whole, we can then bend our legs and place the feet onto the floor. Gives us another opportunity, actually, to release the lower back. So once your legs are bent and feet are on the floor, scoot the buttocks under and release the lower back through the deep breath. If you're here at the Brighton Buddhist Center, roll onto your side facing away from Tārā. If you're at home, roll onto your left side. Then roll back to your other side, so you're facing towards Tārā. If you're here at the Buddhist Center, and having laid on both sides, gradually bring yourself round. You might rub your eyes, stretch out an arm or leg. The particle that's part of the whole, that's true or foundation identity, is the whole, comes up from the side. So take your own time, bring yourself up from the side when you're ready. If you agree with the following statement, after I say Om, you can repeat Om as well, which means something like, so be it, I agree, I consent. You might, I often feel when I've agreed, I feel a sort of expansion out, a vibration out, as if all the particles of blessing energy are doing what I've asked them to do. So if you agree, after I've said Om, say Om as well. May the merit gained in our acting thus go to the alleviation of the suffering of all beings. Om. Maybe you'll feel that emanation. Thanks so much for your time. Really appreciate it. It's really lovely to see you. Thanks, Zoomers, as well. I have to put my glasses on to see the Zoomers. Hey, Zoomers. Thank you all. Be happy and well. Thanks for coming. I look forward to seeing you again. I'm just going to press a button so I can hear you if you're saying anything. It's just, you might not be, and you don't have to be, but just in case. Thanks, everyone. Thank you.